Okay, guys, welcome. We're so glad to have you here on a Thursday afternoon. Hopefully, I'll give you a little bit of information that maybe you didn't have before, or if you already have some of this information, hopefully it'll go ahead and provide a refresher for you. So we are going to be talking today about goal setting and small groups. I do have a link to the presentation here. It should be in the chat window. If you'll put it in again, just in case someone else has joined us, so they will have access to it. And she will also add our link to our YouTube channel so that you'll be able to find this recording by Monday. And there's a ton of stuff on our YouTube channel. Please feel free to go in there and look around. You might find some really good stuff for blended learning that you have not seen before. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I am Shelley Smallwood. I'm the Director of Innovative Learning. And my partner here is Misha Daniel, and she just took her camera and turned it off. But Misha Daniel, that's right. She is one of our training specialists here. And she's the one that did that great training last week on digital binders. And that is up on the YouTube channel. Please feel free to go there and watch it, rewatch it, and rewatch it again if you need to. All right. So one thing that I want you to know about goal setting is that it does provide a context for students to increase agency and ownership of their learning. Goal setting is so vitally important to blended learning, not just blended learning, to pretty much everything that we do, but kids don't necessarily set goals. Really what they do is they say, teacher gave me this, so I worked on it. Why? Because teacher gave me this. And they don't really have any agency or any intrinsic motivation to want to complete it. If they're kids that are compliant and do whatever you ask them, then they do it because you ask them to do it. Some kids won't do it at all because they don't see any value in it. And so those are the kids that are in the back and usually we have the most trouble with, right? But if they are able to start setting goals, it increases their agency and their ownership. It does provide students with the opportunity to track and reflect on their progress. That's something we've never really let kids do or even asked kids to do. All they know is that I did a paper, teacher gave me a grade on it, they told me this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and I'm a 68, yay me. Okay, next, and then I got another paper. They never really connect everything that's going on because they don't know if they're progressing or if they're regressing, or they just know they're doing the papers teacher tells them to do. And at the end of the 9 weeks, I get a grade, and so this must be who I am. I'm a 78. Why? Because teacher says I'm a 78. They don't really understand the specifics. So goal setting is one way for them to start saying, oh, okay, teacher's been sharing data with me. Teacher is showing me how I'm doing in iStation and in the little subcomponents of iStation. Or the teacher has been showing me how I did on my interim. If you guys did the beginning of year interim assessment that TEA sent out, that would be a great starting point with your students, letting them know kind of where they're at as they're getting started. So as they're getting started with the school year. So based on that data, they can determine where they need to go. And that takes some work on your part, as well as on the student's part. But we really want students to begin developing their own agency, their own ownership. Developing an intrinsic motivation to want to get better at context clues, at implied meaning, at multiplication, whatever it is that they're working on. So what we want students to do is we want them to create SMART goals. Now, you all have probably heard of SMART goals. You may even have principals that ask you to create SMART goals on your evaluations. You may not. It all depends on who the principal is. But SMART goals are much, much easier to track than just broad, vague goals. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But one of the things that you should really have kids do at the beginning of the year is to set one long-term goal. One long-term SMART goal. And I can tell you right now, 9 out of 10 kids are going to say, I want to be able to pass the language arts STAR exam. or I want to pass the EOC in algebra, or whatever it is, right? That's a long-term goal. That's something that doesn't even happen until the end of the year. But there are lots of steps before that long-term goal that they need to take in order to reach to achieve that long-term goal. They have to set short-term goals all the way throughout the year in order to reach that long-term goal. And so whether it's an academic goal or it's a behavior goal, a non-academic goal, could be behavior, it could be I want to play the guitar, it could be I want to learn to ride a bike, anything that a kiddo might want to learn how to do. Those are non-academic goals. And I'll be honest with you, non-academic goals are just as important as non-academic goals are just as important as academic goals, especially when we're talking about our SEL for students. Their social emotional, somebody's in here. Their social emotional well-being is just as important as their academic well-being. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. So what is a SMART goal? And there are different acronyms for SMART goals. Some people use certain terms, others use different terms. This is the one that kind of made sense to me. The only one that I wish the R was realistic. I think realistic is maybe better than relevant, although relevant is important as long as it's relevant to a student. But I think students really need realistic goals. Anyway, let's look at this. If you look at S for SMART, I wish that would stop coming up. It stands for specific. You want kids to be able to set very specific goals. Nothing broad and vague. I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z, period. And that's the whole goal. Well, what does that mean? When are you going to do it? What is it specifically that you want to do? Measurable, you should have some clear definition of success. What does success look like? I learned to play the guitar. Well, have I learned to play anything I want to, or have I learned to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? There's a big difference. So you have to figure out, what is it I want to do specifically? Excuse me. And how am I going to measure that success? I'm not sick, I promise. All right. Another thing is it has to be something that's attainable. If I'm a first grade student and I want to learn how to read a novel, I don't know, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. There may be some first grade students that could do that, but not very many. Is that attainable for most? No. For most first grade students, you will probably want them to start reading sight words, or sounding out all the different letters, or understanding, if you're talking about reading, or learning how to add and subtract, certain things like that. It has to be something that they can actually attain. They have to have some previous skill before they can move into whatever it is that they want to reach, whatever that goal is. Now, relevant or realistic, I like realistic, because I want to, it's similar to attainable. It has to be something that's realistic and something that they already have some background knowledge in, so that they can move forward. So it has to be realistic. And time bound. Well, when is this going to happen? If I say I want to pass the STAR exam in English Language Arts by the end of the year, okay, it's time bound. That tells me by the end of the year. But there's a whole lot of things you have to do in between there. So you really want to have your students set SMART goals. They really should set SMART goals, so that it's something that they can go back and look at easily and say, okay, so I said I was going to do X, Y, and Z. Let's see how close I am to that. So let's go ahead and move forward. We're going to talk more about SMART goals, and I'm going to give you some examples of those as well. All right. So this is actually a SMART goal tracker. And this would be for a secondary student. Let me go ahead and click on that. And all righty, so let me make this a little bit smaller so you can see it. Hopefully you can see the whole thing. So this is a SMART goal tracker that was created by Catlin Tucker, one of my favorites, obviously. And this is a way for students to see, okay, what is it? What goals am I setting for myself? How am I going to reach those goals? And how can I make sure that it follows these particular time or how do I make sure it's SMART? How do I make sure it's SMART, measurable, attainable, relevant or realistic, and timely or time bound? And so they can actually come down here and answer these questions and then take that information and create their SMART goals here. So this is something, this is a document that you all can make a copy of. Right now you have just view access, but if you go up to file, make a copy, yes, then you will be able to make a copy of this and add it to your own Google Drive. And students will be able to go in here and actually type their answers in. So this can be totally electronic. It doesn't have to be done by hand. Obviously, it could be done by hand, but at this point, during these circumstances, for sure, there's no reason for it to be done by hand. They can go in here and actually type in whatever information they want to, work on this. They can share it with you. You could go in and actually make comments on it as well. Maybe their SMART goal needs to be rewritten. Maybe they forgot to make it time bound. When is this going to be done? Maybe they forgot to add specifics. How are you going to make this happen? So if that were the case, then you could make some of those comments in there so that they would have the ability to do that. So this is just one. If you Google SMART goal trackers, you will find a ton of them just in the images. You can look through Google Images and you'll find all kinds of SMART goal trackers. And I would look for SMART goal trackers in Google. That way you can add it to your own Google Drive and you have access to it. You can write on it. You don't have to redo it.
I have a question about these SMART goals. So obviously we're looking at this like for like an upper grade student. So would you recommend using this also for, say, like a kinder, first grade? Obviously they wouldn't be filling the whole thing out by themselves, but how you would obviously have to kind of pare it down a little bit for our little guys.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And I do have, let me go back. I do have a SMART goal tracker for elementary. Now this one is a little bit shorter, a little bit easier, and you could even go a step further. Let me go ahead and show you this one. And again, you can make a copy of this if you need to. If you would like to actually use it. And so students would be able to put their name here. Whoops, sorry. I think, you're going to have to use a text box because it's so close to the top, but everywhere else you can click it. But they would put their name on it. And it says, your goal must be specific. What exactly are you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to learn to play the guitar. I'm trying to learn how to write words using the sound CH. I mean, it may not
I want to write a story.
There you go.
Right.
And I want to write a story. Okay. A story about what?
About a monster. And
okay.
Then you go
my
from
goal
there, right?
is to write a story about a monster, right?
Yes.
And
have beginning, middle, and end.
That's right. I will track the progress I make towards my goal by determining if I have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, that could be your measurement. Is it attainable? Can a first grader write a story?
Yes,
of
absolutely.
Course. Absolutely. And so, yes, a first grader could certainly write a story. It may not be, 12 pages long, but they could certainly write a few sentences, maybe even a paragraph. And that's the beginning of their story, of writing a story, right?
Yes.
So is it realistic? Is it realistic for a student to be able to write a story? Is that something that they realistically could sit down and actually work on?
And that would be a discussion I guess you'd have with that student, because, some students, it's going to be more of a realistic goal than others based on their skills and where they are.
That's absolutely right. Some students may just be learning to write. Maybe they're still learning to write their letters. Maybe they're still learning to even type. something. I mean, maybe they don't know the keyboard. Maybe they don't, I mean, there are a lot of things that need to go into whether I can write a story or not. Some first graders, it may be realistic for them. Some it may not be. And so as the teacher, you would have to talk to that student and determine what's relevant or what's realistic for you. What can you do that would be a little bit of a, not a struggle, but it's going to challenge you, not be too easy, but by the same token, it's not going to be too hard either, because that's a great way to make your students frustrated, or for them to become frustrated and not want to do it at all. So is it time bound? When are you going to have this story written?
Well, I want it done by Halloween because it's a scary story.
That's true. So you would say by October, is it 30th or 31st?
The 30th. The 30th. Friday the 30th.
There you go. There you go. So that helps them just kind of come up with the pieces of the SMART goal. And then what are the steps you need to take to reach that SMART goal? I may need to practice my writing, or find the spelling of some certain words. I may need to determine who my characters in the story are.
Yes.
I may need to determine what my setting is. And I may need to talk to the teacher about how do I end it? How can I end this easily? I don't know. But basically they could have 4 steps to reaching that goal, or they could have 8 steps. It really depends on the student and what the expectation is. And then here you can actually have your students write their SMART goal. And so my goal, so what would this goal look like? What do you think? I didn't fill it in because I want you guys to be able to download this template. But if you're going to write a story, so it might be, my goal is to write
a scary story that has a beginning, middle, and end.
That has a beginning, middle, I'm not writing it out. Oops, middle, and end by October 30th, right?
Yes.
So is that specific? Dang it, it's because I've got the stupid period there. It really wants to do that.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Beginning, middle, and end. So if begging, okay, great. So if I'm a student and that's my goal, would I be able to go back to that and check my progress?
I would think so. I would think that's where I would want to have those conversations with my students to say, how are we doing? Have you figured out like where your setting is? Have you figured out what characters you're going to make? Or what's your scary monster going to look like? Right. How are you going to tell people about that?
That's right. That's right. Let me ask you this. We said that we wanted this written by October 30th.
Yes.
Is that enough time or too much time for a child to write a story? For a first grader, a first grader.
It would depend on, of course, for the first grader, depending on what level they were at, I would think. But I would want them to actually have some time to go back and maybe do a little bit of editing on that story and add to it, because they're going to tell you the whole story the first time, but then okay, but now we need to look at it in parts. And of course, this is for first grade. And I hope I didn't squirrel you too much here, Shelley. I just was
not at all.
About this.
Because that's actually the answer I'm looking for. Because you have to know your children, right? You have to know your students. You have to know what will challenge them and what would be over their head. If I gave this to one of my EL students that had very, very limited English, a bilingual student that won't even talk because except in Spanish, this would be very difficult to write a story in English. Could they write it in Spanish? Possibly, depending on their language acquisition. But again, I would have to look at my students and get to know them. That's one of the reasons why it's so important to get to know your students. Now, how can you do that if I've got 20 students or 25 students? If I'm at a high school, I may have as many as 30 students. How do I get to know? And that's just in one class.
Yeah.
If I have 6 classes, I may have as many as 150 students, something like that. And how do I get to know those students well enough to be able to assist them? Okay.
Well, you think about this time of remote learning. I mean, of course, we can't do small group instruction. That's we can't say that anymore, right?
That's right.
So instead, we would say a virtual collaborative group where we would have a few students that were working in that group that I could go and join, and then maybe have some discussions time with them.
There you go. All right. Absolutely. That's one of the reasons, and we're going to talk about this again, but that is one of the reasons why it's so important to work in those teacher-guided groups or teacher-led groups with students. One, well, we'll get to that in a minute. I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. So we're still talking about SMART goals. This is not something that kids are going to be able to do immediately. I don't care if they're first graders or if they are seniors in high school. If they've never had any practice writing SMART goals, this will not come naturally. It doesn't come naturally to teachers until you've done it many times, until you've practiced it, and then you look back and say, okay, I can follow that. This is going to tell me whether or not I am making any forward progress on this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, and let's look at a couple of
We're not seeing your screen now, Shelley.
Oh.
Somehow we.
Okay. Yes, because I've got this on full screen. So hold on. Can you hold on a minute. It's not even asking me. So I'm going to stop presenting for just a moment. Oh, I'm not presenting. Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
That's what happened. What happened?
You know what? That happens every once in a while. It's
weird.
Stop presenting. Sometimes when you change your view, sometimes it will do that.
I know this never ever happens to you guys, right? Ever.
No, well, they're pros. They've been doing this for a long time.
And actually, I want to change it. That's probably what happened because I had Chrome tab instead of entire, but that's okay. Okay. All right.
And okay. There we go. There it is.
Yeah. So make sure you can see that, correct?
Yes, I can see that now. Yes.
All right. And I'm going to make it just a tad larger. Nope, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm afraid I'm going to break it. All right. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And these are just some examples of SMART goals. So an elementary student may say as a SMART goal, I will increase my Lexile score. Or if you're doing iStation, I will increase my iStation scores, maybe during the ISIP or, whatever type of evaluation you're giving them. But I will increase my Lexile score by 2% during the month of October by reading 60 minutes, 5 days a week. Do you think it would be, is that specific?
Very.
And what's specific about it? What is it that this student is going to do? And you guys can add it to the chat if you would like to answer. So is that a specific goal? And if so, what's specific about it?
The daily minutes, somebody is saying.
The daily minutes, yep.
Yes. Thank you, Courtney.
What else? There's something else that's very specific.
The timeline.
The timeline, yeah. By October 20. They know by October 20, then they should be able to check. And how many days a week? Absolutely. 5 days a week, 60 minutes, 5 days a week. And what is it specifically that the student is going to do?
The percentage growth.
Yep. Percentage growth on the Lexile. Absolutely.
And someone is asking if they can get this document emailed to them.
Which document are we talking about?
I'm thinking about the SMART, maybe the SMART goals
or the SMART goal trackers.
I think if you click on them to make a copy of them, but if you have access to the presentation also right now. So
you may want to put that presentation link in there.
I was just going to say I'll put the link back in just in case we had somebody that came in late again, or If your network drops, that happens.
Never, never.
Yeah.
There it is. So you can go to the slideshow here, and then those SMART goal trackers are actually a link to the actual document in Google Drive, and you can click on it and then just make a copy, and you own it at that point. Once you make a copy, you own it, and you can use it, change it, do whatever you'd like to do with it. Oh, one thing, I'm gonna back up just a little bit. One thing that you can do with your SMART goal trackers for your younger students, pre-K kinder, well, I'm not going to tell you what the one thing is. What is one thing you think you could do for a pre-K or a kinder or a first grade student? What type of a SMART goal tracker could you do for them? Is this going to work for a pre-kinder student?
No, I definitely don't think so. They're going to turn away from it. I think it should be something a little bit easier for them to look at. Yes. Thank you very much, Courtney. Yes, pictures, icons.
Absolutely. If they're learning certain letters, you would have pictures of those letters. And the kids, and less steps, absolutely.
Yes.
I don't know that I would ask my pre-K kinder to write a SMART goal. Maybe not even first grade. Again, it depends on their level of skill. But I would have something a little bit more image driven. I would have something that maybe would show the actual letters that they're doing. What I've actually seen in some classrooms is teachers will have a chart, like a table with all the different letter sounds. And then students would practice those sounds. And once they've mastered it, showing the teacher during small group, then they get to mark it off with a green mark. Oh, mastered it. And every time I go to it, I know what it is. And so by the end of the year, they should have been able to master all of those sounds or words if they are sight words, whatever it is. And they could actually set goals, weekly goals, and say, okay, at the end of this week, I'm going to know 4 of these letters, or I'm going to know how to sound out, or I'm going to know 5 of these sight words, whatever it is. But it could definitely be image driven. It could be colors. It could be pretty much anything, whatever it is students are learning.
I would think this would go into your data binder, your digital data binder, as a piece that we could go back and revisit together.
Absolutely. Your SMART goal trackers belong in your data binder. They should be basically the front page of your data binder. And they should, so that kids, every time they open it, they'll say, what is my goal? This is what my goal is. What does my data say? Okay, I'm making some progress, but I'm not there yet. So what do I need to work on next? Those are the kind of conversations that kids should be able to start having with themselves as well as the teacher. But they should be reflecting on their goals and on their data and then determining what their next steps are. So can we add this page there? Absolutely. You can add this to your data binder. Now, if you've got a digital data binder, if you are here with, oh, there you go, Misha's answering it. But yes, you can absolutely add it to your digital data binder. That one and any other, you just want it to be a Google Doc. And I know that Misha has been talking about having, doing the digital data binders on Google Sites. And you can actually add those right there, right, Miss Misha?
Oh, absolutely. You can add anything Google on a Google site page anywhere, and it's there. It's a living document. So if I make changes on my Google document, it's going to make changes on my web page, and I don't have to go in there and make changes.
That's right.
Great.
That's right. So let's look at the second elementary one. Here's the sight words. I will learn. Oh, I didn't go through the whole thing. We did specific. Is it measurable? The first one, is it measurable?
Well, it's by the 2%.
Yeah.
So
I can measure that. By the end of October, I can test again and see if my Lexile score has gone up 2%. That's measurable, isn't it? Makes it measurable. Let's see. Specific, measurable, is it attainable? Is 2% too much to ask for in a month? You guys know more about Lexile scores than I do.
I'm not real good with the Lexile scores. I'm real good with the other ones, whether it's a level 12, the guided reading levels. I'm really good about those. I know those really well.
So do we have any elementary teachers out there? Would 2% be a reasonable or an attainable percentage in a month? We don't have any elementary teachers. These are all secondary. Okay. I'm going to say yes. 2% sounded good to me. So that's what I put. Is it realistic? Yes, I think it's definitely realistic. If a kid reads for an hour for 5 days a week, an hour every day, I definitely think that they would be able to increase their scores, increase their Lexile level, increase their tier, or at least the subunits within iStation, definitely. And is it time bound? Yes, October 2020. By the end of the month, October 2020. And so it meets all of that criteria, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How about I will learn 10 new sight words during the week of October 5th through 9th by earning 100% on my sight word assessment. Oh, it shouldn't be by earning. It should and earn 100%. Yeah. Yes. Sorry about that.
Nope.
See, that's one good thing about all this great digital stuff.
You just go right in there and make a change. That's right.
And earn 100% on my sight word assessment. Okay. Is that specific?
I would definitely say so. You're talking about just 10 sight words.
Okay.
That's the goal to get to.
All right. And now we don't know what grade level this particular student is, but 10 words a week, isn't that kind of like a spelling test?
Very, very close to it. Yes.
Right? Similar. And so I think 10 words is reasonable. Is this measurable? Yeah, I either learn the 10 words or I don't.
Yes.
Is it attainable? They usually do more. I mean, depending on the grade level, I think 10 words is definitely reasonable and or attainable and realistic. And what about time bound?
Well, you said it for that specific week, so yes, it's even time bound. That this is your time frame that you're going to be learning.
By October the 9th, I should be able to get 100% on my sight word assessment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at the secondary one. I have a feeling I have more secondary teachers here, maybe. I will practice my guitar every afternoon for 2 weeks to earn first chair status by October 15th. Is it specific?
Pretty specific.
What is it the kid wants to do?
He wants to get the first chair for his guitar class, obviously.
That's right. Is it measurable?
I guess based on when they give the chair tests during the
based on performance.
I don't know if they give them on Fridays or whatever when they have their performance tests. Yes.
Right. And is it attainable and realistic?
I would think it would be pretty realistic, although I think the 2 weeks is to get the first chair, just practicing for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. My boys are probably shaking their heads. Yeah, I don't think so. But you know, in our situation here, yes.
Well, what if they're second chair right now? We don't know.
If they're second, yeah, we don't know how good they are. They could be just completely awesome, and yes, not like me who don't even know the strings are.
Yes, perfect. Yvonne says depends on what chair they are now.
Exactly. Very good. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for digging out of
the could we make it even more specific then? You could say by earning first chair or every afternoon for 2 weeks to move from second chair to first chair.
That would be more specific. Yes.
Right. That would be more specific.
Yes. Of course, if I'm this child's teacher, I'm going to know that they're in second chair right now. So, I mean, I would already know that.
That's true. But Pauline has a great point.
Yes, that's a good question.
Practice. Am I going to practice 5 minutes a day? Is that going to move me into first chair? Probably not. Yeah, if it was me, it'd be 20 hours a day too. I would never have been at second chair.
No, not for guitar.
Or waiting to get in. But you're right. It would be a better goal if they said specifically how long they were going to work and how many days. So if I did this for an hour every day for 2 weeks, or 2 hours every day for 2 weeks, that would be more specific, right?
So would you would guide them then as the teacher to kind of move towards that? You wouldn't give them necessarily the whole answer there, but you would kind of make it think it was their idea that they came up with. You know what, maybe I should do it an hour a day for the 2 weeks. Mrs. Daniel, what do you think? Oh, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah. Very good. That's exactly right. Because it requires that teacher-student interaction for kids to write really good goals, really good, measurable, attainable, realistic, SMART goals. So let's look at the next one. Every day I will read 20 pages of the novel Animal Farm for 3 weeks and pass my literature exam by October 21st.
Wow. That's a pretty big goal.
Right? To read Animal Farm and to understand it.
And to understand it. Yeah. I mean, 20 pages isn't like, if they said, I'm going to read 200 pages a day, then you'd be like, yeah, that's not going to happen. 20 pages is pretty attainable. But you know, Animal Farm is kind of a tough book, but hey, good job, kid. That's
right. See, so they've got the number of pages, they've got the novel they're going to read for how long, and they've got the time bound by October 21st. And so I think that's a pretty good example.
Somebody, we have Caroline here who's saying passing seems broad. 70 is passing.
Perfect. So what is passing? Remember it says, what does success look like? And so you want to put in here and say, what is success? Passing? You're right. 70 is passing. Are they okay with a 70? Or do they want to, instead of saying by passing and pass my literature exam, you might want to say for 3 weeks and earn a 95 on my exam by October 21st or something like that, right? And then that way, a student has something very specific to work towards. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Carolina. That is awesome. All right. Any questions about SMART goals and how they can be written or why they're important? Can somebody in the chat tell me, why are SMART goals important for students?
I think they're thinking.
This is wait time. Okay, it gives them a goal.
It gives them something to work for. Yes.
Students up for success and build positive esteem, ownership. Absolutely. Yes. All of those are correct. We actually covered this in our health class. So you're talking about goal setting. So you mean this would actually kind of work into your health class, it sounds like. Give them a reason to do this. Accountability, perfect. Yep. It does absolutely increase the student agency because
and
students are thinking about, they're thinking about, what am I going to do? How am I going to get there? And that's what we want them to do, right? Absolutely. It keeps them from being overwhelmed by breaking them down into short-term goals. Perfect.
It makes them feel like they're doing it for themselves and not because they're told to do it.
Yep.
Again, putting that idea into their head. Oh, I'm going to do that.
Yep, absolutely, because they get to develop them, right? Good for conferencing. Yep, it's a good way to get to know your kids and to really develop that relationship. It gives students confidence, absolutely, because when they start achieving these goals, they can actually see their own growth, and that absolutely provides confidence. Whether I start at a level, let's say I'm a tier 3, and I'm just moving up and I go from a 20 to a 40, you know what? I've still made growth. And that's still as exciting. You still have to make up that. There's no way for a kid to say, okay, I'm at a 20, and by the time I take this test next week, I need to be at 100. That's not realistic. So very good. Ownership. They're important because it'll keep them focused and accountable and achieving success. Absolutely. Yes. And there was one here I think I missed here.
Their students create goals based on their abilities and growth for individualized growth path.
Yep.
So yes.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. You guys got it. Awesome. Wow. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next one here. So when we're talking about goal setting, when does that happen? For a lot of teachers, especially when they're just beginning in blended learning, it's like, when the heck am I going to have time to meet with each one of these kids and set goals? I've got 150 kids. When am I going to do that? I've got them for 45 minutes a day, 30 kids at a time. It's going to take me 2 months to meet with every single kid. I know some of you are wondering that, right? You're thinking, true, that's true. How do you do that? Well, first of all, let's see what you do in a goal setting conference, okay? Students create their goals based on their own personal data. We kind of talked about that, right? What am I doing well in? What do I need more work in? What are my next steps, okay? Students track their own personal progress of the goals that they set, and those are found in their data binder. And so that's something they should look at daily. What is my goal? How much progress have I made? How much do I still have to go? This is where I'm starting, okay? And students also need to conference with teachers. So what do teachers do? Well, they review the student goals. And if it's a Google Doc, easy, they share it with you. Or it's could be in your Google Classroom, whatever, but you write notes, write comments on it. Let them know that you're paying attention, give them feedback. They also track student progress towards those goals, which is what we do now, right? That's not so far removed from what you already do. How close are kids getting to mastering whatever TEKS it is that you're providing for your kids? But now the kids get to be a partner in this instead of just me, the teacher, doing all this tracking and progress and where are they. Now kids get to see where they are too, and they start working towards those same goals and that same end in mind. And also teachers are supposed to conference with students about goals and their progress as well. Okay, sounds easy. So what does the technology do? Well, it provides the shared digital document that allows students and teachers to engage in productive dialogue, right? And that's part of what some of you are saying, that it provides that venue for a conference, okay? So I am gonna let you watch this really quick. I think it's just a couple minutes long. Oops.
We're
year last year, and then we
We're not
implemented
seeing the video, Shelley.
with our classes this year. And it's been a really great way to get to know our students at a different level than we would
We're
normally.
hearing an echo. Could you mute your
So we learn about
the things that they're great at. We learn about the things that
Can you hear it?
they internally feel is a
Yes.
struggle for them, and then ways that we can talk about to overcome them.
We learn about a goal that they have. So it's just been really
nice to see them in sort of a different light and to get them really opening up and talking about things that they see inside of themselves. So making them more aware of that.
This whole talk was made by Miss Collins and Mr. Frenheim. And we have like little conferences with our teacher during flex and community time. So it just basically tells us all of our things. So our NVA, spring, fall, all of the things that we do good and low. So for NVA reading in spring, I got 206 in spring, and then in fall 207. And my winter goal was 212, my winter score was 215, and my spring goal was 217. Our access, engage, and express, it tells us all of the stuff that we're good at. So our access, how my teachers present my information. I like to talk to others, I like to read, to watch videos, to learn things, to research on my own, to read directions on my own. I'd rather make my own images in my head. And then my gauge, how I stay motivated to learn. So what pumps me up to learn? I prefer to work with a partner. I like to learn about social studies. The most that interested me was the Boston Marathon. Interested me the most. I get interested in something when I read about it, then I want to read more. I stay interested by researching and studying topics that interest me. And I express how I show what I know. What do I like to create? And then I prefer to use technology right now. I prefer Chrome.
I'm going to go ahead and stop it because he's just talking about his own learner profile, meaning I know some of you give your students learner profiles, and that's basically the things that they like, the things that they don't like, the things that they do when they're at home, just kind of a personal profile. And that's something that if you chose to do that, you could definitely add that to your student binder. But let me ask you something. Did you notice when he said that on his NWEA score, and that's just some testing that they do just to track progress, and he said that his goal was 217, but did anybody hear what he actually achieved?
I thought I heard him say 215.
Yep, that's what he achieved. He achieved a 215, but his goal was actually 217. So what do you think that's telling him? I know what it's telling me as a teacher.
Yeah.
What is that telling that student?
He's going to need to work a little bit harder to attain that goal.
Yeah. Once he's figured out that, okay, I didn't quite get my goal, so what do I need to do in order to get there next time? It gives him some reflection, or maybe the goal was too high. That's possible. Yeah. That is possible, because if you notice on his NWEA, I think he from the fall into the spring, he only gained 1 point. And I don't have the exact breakdown of how NWEA does their scoring. But if you go from spring to fall and you only gain 1 point, then either it's really difficult to move forward, or maybe he's not working as hard as he should. You would have to know that assessment, and you would have to know whether or not it's possible or attainable for him. Absolutely. So those are the kind of things you would talk about with your students. Now, let me ask you something. Well, let's go next. All right. So now we're going to talk about the small groups. Teacher-led small groups allow teachers to work more closely with each student, and students feel more connected to the teacher. How many students, even high school students, you can't tell me otherwise, how many students rarely get that interaction with teachers, that one-on-one, or not even one-on-one, it could be small group, right? But they don't get that very often, especially in a large group. If I'm a teacher, a high school teacher, say, and I'm lecturing, then I'm not going to get to every one of those kids in my class at the end of that class period, or maybe not even at the end of the week. Or I taught middle school for 14 years, and there were some of those kids I probably didn't know very well, and I can even think of some of them off the top of my head. Some of them I knew well because they were always up front and in your face, and others sat in the back, never caused a problem, never really, they would speak to me if they had to, but otherwise, they didn't want to have to interact, or I didn't interact with them, technically, is really what happened. But kids like to feel like the teacher notices them. And by having small group, it gives them that opportunity and that ability. Small independent student groups give students responsibility and also allows them to work with others or alone, depending on the activity or need. Okay, so while I'm in a teacher-led group, me and 3-4 kids, whatever my group is, then what am I going to what are my other kids doing?
They're working on independent.
That's right. They're going to be working independently. Part of the rituals and routines that we talked about previously is them learning how to work independently and not to bother the teacher when she or he is working in small group with other students. They learn to start asking questions of one another and learn to, they only, what is that? Ask 3 before me, or, there's different things like that. They learn to actually use that so that they're not interrupting the teacher when he or she is working with small group. So I know we talked about goal setting in small group. Does it have to be individual one-on-one?
I don't think so. I could see like where you have like 3 kids that have the same type of a goal.
Yep, absolutely.
What a great way to root for each other and say, hey, how you doing on your goal? I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Yeah.
Great point, Miss Misha. That's absolutely correct. You can have more than one student at your table. And while you've got students working independently, and guess what? We're going to have students that are virtual as well. What do we do with that group? Students working asynchronously, that's another group we're going to have.
Yes.
Synchronous, asynchronous, and we'll talk about that. They actually develop greater student agency because you're giving them some autonomy, and they feel empowered to drive their own learning because we trust them. I have seen that even happen with those kids that you don't expect to do anything. And we've all had those kids. But when you let them drive their own learning, all of a sudden they become a little bit more interested. It's kind of interesting the way that happens. But while your other kids are working in small group, either together or independently, not small group, virtual collaborative groups.
Collaborative groups.
Right now we can't get close together.
No.
That's right.
Barely be in the same room together.
Absolutely. So that gives the teacher time to work with small groups. And if I'm working with, say, 5 kids for 20 minutes, and then I let them go off and work on an independent group, and then I take another 5 or another 3, or, whatever the number is, I can get through that pretty quickly. I can do goal setting, and I can do very targeted instruction with those kids, depending on what they need. Now, it doesn't mean those groups are always the same group. The bluebirds, the blackbirds, and the buzzards. We're not going to do that. Those groups should be interchangeable and flexible and changing. Another thing, am I going to set aside a day for goal setting? Okay, I'm not set aside. Yeah. Let's say, okay, every Friday, we're going to do goal setting. Is that realistic? You guys are like, I don't know.
I don't think so.
No, thank you, Courtney. Dieting is that way. I love that.
I do like that. I was going to say something about that comment because I think that when we set goals, we're the same way. We want to have a cheerleader. We want to have somebody who's there alongside us.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And you're right. You can't say we're going to goal set every Friday, because what if my goal is I can't finish it for 2 weeks? Or what about the kid that has a goal that I won't finish it till the end of the month? Well, I can't have a goal setting. I guess I could go in there and talk about the progress of my goal, but I'm not going to set a new goal. And so basically, you're going to have goal setting conferences at all different times. And so it could be that you pull them in and you're going to be doing targeted instruction. And one of them says, I've mastered my goal. I need to move forward. Then you may take 5 minutes to talk to that kid, because I will tell you, once kids get familiar with setting goals, they get really good at it. And once they get to the point where they are reflecting on their data, they get really good at determining what they need to do next. And you'll see that the power is going to be right there in that small group. That's when you're going to do it. So here is what, whoops, dang it. Here we go. All right. So let's say that this is kind of what our classroom is going to look like right now, or when kids come back on the 19th. We're going to have some kids that are face-to-face, say right here, and we're going to have some kids that are virtual, okay? And the teacher, if let's say kids are working, the teacher can still have a student-led group. And in that student-led group, there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could take a few students that are face-to-face, and maybe a couple of students that are virtual. Maybe they all have the same need, or the same, whatever that instruction is going to be for them. Or maybe you're just starting goal setting and they're kind of going to be setting goals that are similar to one another. And so I just would have to have my computer here and let those 2 students that are in that goal setting conference, or in that small teacher-led conference, and then maybe 2 or 3 students here, as long as you're social distancing. Okay, they're going to have to be able to keep their little dividers up, make sure they're nice, far enough apart at this point. But while I'm working with that group, then I have kids over here that are either working with other students, again, 6 feet apart, or they could be working independently, depending on what it is they're working on. You could have them doing projects. You could have them working on novel studies. You could have them working on, maybe these kids are all working on multiplication, and these kids right here are already working on division. It just depends on what the content is and what the class is. Now, these kids back here, at this moment, while the teacher is here working in small group, these kids are working asynchronously. What does that mean? And don't answer, Miss Misha.
Okay, I won't.
What is the definition of asynchronous learning?
But I will say we're down to just a couple of minutes here. So.
Ooh, okay, I'm almost done. What is, yes, not all at the same time. That's close.
Right.
Not
live.
Yes.
Very good. Yes.
So if I'm a student and I'm participating in asynchronous learning, who's there with me?
That's right.
Not
Not in all the same
together.
place. Self-paced.
Yep.
There's the word.
No one
Pace.
is there with me. That's right.
Right.
That's exactly what asynchronous means. What it means is these students that are working asynchronously have been given an assignment by the teacher in the Google Classroom or wherever it is, and are not on that Google Meet right now. They are over at their kitchen table or wherever, and they are working on an assignment that the teacher has provided for them. And they are
walked away
on their own. They've walked away. That's right. Now, that doesn't mean they're not coming back, or they're going to come back when they feel like it. You know, as a teacher, I'm going to say you have 20 minutes to go work on your assignment. Go work on it. And actually, as you get better at this, you'll find with the older kids, you can give them longer periods of time, depending on what they're working on. But then they come back in 20 minutes and they're ready to go and maybe join small group or maybe join whole group instruction, whatever it is. But the power is in the small groups. That's when the teacher has the ability to work with smaller numbers and really gets to know those kids and provide targeted instruction and provide goal setting facilitation. Okay, I had another video, but I guess you guys are going to have to watch that on your own. It's not a very long one, but it talks about small group. So here's another thing, and I'm going to try to do this in 30 seconds or less. You guys are going to go, no, I'm not doing that. All right. So how can you work with a group of students if they are online? How can I do that? Because we're all in the same meet here together, right? Well, there is this cool thing called Mute Tab. It's a Google, it's a Chrome extension to your browser. And it looks like this. Of course, that thing keeps jumping up there. It's driving me nuts. But you'll see the image of it here right below the red arrow when that goes away. And you want to find it. It's called Mute Tab. That's the one that works, not the other ones. That's
the other ones don't work so well.
They don't work.
Yeah.
So you can add that. You can go in and add that extension. And if you'll notice, what it does is it adds this little, I don't think you can see it, but it adds this little microphone or speaker right here to the top, to where all of your extensions are pinned. And when it is muted, you can click mute and then place your Google Meet on mute. And I can jump over to this one, and this one is not muted, and my Google Meet is not muted. And I can talk and I can do whatever I need to, but the other group cannot hear me. And I'm not necessarily hearing them, but they still think I'm in there, especially with kids, because I am in there. It's my Meet. And if you'll notice here at the top, I've actually got 3 Google Meets going at the same time.
Yeah.
During leadership yesterday,
That's right.
I had 6 Google Meets going on.
I can't believe that.
At the same time. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Esquivel says it's been a lifesaver. You don't hear all the chatter from all the other meets. That's absolutely right.
But again, they see you in there, so that's going to be almost like that. Okay, I better behave because my teacher is in here with me. They just don't know that maybe you're not listening right at that
specific moment, but they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know.
They still see you. They still see your,
breakout sessions. I see that.
That's right.
In the words, breakout sessions. Yes.
That's it. All right, guys, that is actually, I'm going to have to stop there. I do see a few questions. I'm going to go to
grid view do we need to delete?
which
That's the
grid
question.
view? All right.
That's
so
going to be the Google
Grid
Meet
view fix.
grid view fix. And some of them are green, some of them are black, and some of them are red. It doesn't matter which one you have. You right click on it and remove it. And once you do that, you're going to you go to the Google where you change your layout within the Google Meet and go to the tiled. And then you'll have a little slider that you can go all the way to 49 people.
Yep.
It's amazing. It'll go away, I promise. I mean, it'll show up there for you once you get rid of the grid view fix.
Yep. And so can you all see this? Can you see the screen with the Google Meet?
Yes,
so
we can.
Once you get rid of that grid view fix, you can go to the 3 dots right here. I'll get rid of the chat for just a moment. You can go to the 3 dots in the lower right corner. And you probably are going to see there's a lot of new stuff in here now.
Yes.
You've got a whiteboard that's integrated. The Jamboard is already
there. Mm-hmm.
I can blur my background.
Yes.
Let's see there. I look like
awesome.
I'm in outer space. I know. There's
it's
host
so
controls.
Cool.
That's right.
Yes.
You can choose to let students share their screen or not. You can let them chat or not. Sometimes you don't want them chatting. They're not always appropriate, right? And there are so many new cool things on here. The blur background.
More coming.
Yep. And so here's the change layout. And you can do auto, tiled. You can do a spotlight that will just show that one individual that is speaking at that moment.
Which is you, and you're presenting.
Right. And, or the tiled view is the one that I like because it lets me see everything. Or I could do a sidebar where I've got a big view of the presentation if I've only got one screen, and then all the individuals are off to the left over here.
I will say it kind of does that automatically in the tiled view because yours was super big and then everybody was kind of like on the side.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yep, that's true. So those are just a few little new things that are in Google Meet now. There are still some things coming. We are going to be getting the, and look, you can go up to 49 people now in your grid view, or you can change it to different numbers, whatever you'd like. But the breakout rooms are coming very soon. And I believe, and it was here before, but I don't see where you could mute everybody at once. But
I think they were kind of still playing with that, but that is coming out very soon where you can mute all your students at one time.
Right, right.
Let me get the YouTube link. Somebody's asking for it. Let me get it back here in the chat. I'll get it for you. 1 second.
Oh, yay. That's right, Mr. Garcia. Maybe the computer will run at a decent speed.
I hope so. Yes.
Oh, and Abby just did it. So cool. Wow.
Yes.
And the host controls, awesome. You can control kind of what's happening. And if I have a messy house and I don't want you to see it, I'm going to blur it.
That's right.
All right, guys, if there are any questions, you are welcome to stay behind, but make sure that you do have access to the slideshow here, and that will give you all the information that I've given you, and all the links are in there for the SMART goal trackers and so forth, and a couple of videos that we didn't get an opportunity to watch. But please feel free to take this, make a copy of it, use it, do whatever you'd like with it. And thank you all for being here. Make sure you make sure you finish or complete the survey so you'll get credit today. And I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great weekend.